Electronic music. Is it real music according to society? Is it just mindless repetition without words, emotion, or variety? Hi, my name is Reed Mitchell, and for my personal project, I've created a special electronic music mix, exemplifying the diversity and subgenres present in electronic music. While these subgenres are not exactly clear-cut, the goal of this project, as previously stated, was to show off the vast differences and the broad range of styles that electronic music encompasses. But does electronic music take effort and talent? To answer that, I have also incorporated an original track as part of this mix, and I will discuss creating that a little bit later in this podcast. So, to start off, I've already spoken a little about the goal, but not as much about what really caused me to really invest my time in this sort of creation. If you couldn't already tell, I am a huge fan of electronic music, and I am an avid listener to most, if not all, of the subgenres of EDM. So, EDM, by the way, stands for electronic dance music, but I digress. My main motivation for diving so deep into this field was actually sparked when I showed other people new music that I had purchased on my iPod. When I was met with heavy criticism and closed minds, I saw the reality that electronic music is actually very underappreciated, and that people do not see the genre for what it really is. They have only listened to the metaphorical tip of the iceberg, if you will, and assumed that what they heard is what all music created digitally sounds like. However, it's so much more than that. Another issue that sparked my motivation to create this project was the argument that anyone can make electronic music. However, I would argue that you don't have to be very qualified to create acoustic music as well. Heck, I could just start clapping and that would be considered music. As with any other digital genre, the quality of the music is what counts. And one cannot simply load up any digital audio workstation, or DAW for short, and expect that his or her song will be a smash hit. It takes practice and a desire to improve your skills. The only difference is what a musician is trying to accomplish. Can you play the world's most difficult drum solo? Or can you program the warmest, most analog-sounding synth wave that has ever been created? Both of these things require copious amounts of talent and practice to accomplish. They are just accomplished in different ways. So now you know why I chose the goal of this project to be the exemplification of EDM's different, diverse genres. I would like people to listen to my mix with an open mind and develop a deeper appreciation for the genre because I feel like it's been done a disservice. My actual criteria, by the way, is as follows. My mix must contain all the major subgenres of electronic music, and it must contain an original track, substituting as one of the major genres from the list that I gather. However, while doing research for this project, as previously mentioned, I found that the subgenres aren't as clear-cut as they are made out to be. If you watch any YouTube video containing electronic music, chances are that there will be an argument over what subgenre the song is. Is it trap? Is it house? Is it dubstep? The list goes on and on. That stated, it was very difficult to find electronic music that was explicitly defined. In fact, it was even difficult to find a reputable and trustworthy source due to the fact that everybody has a different opinion about the subgenres. There is no clear-cut list. Therefore, after the consideration of many different sources, I decided with my best judgment that what would be appropriate to assign to each category. I, of course, used information from each source to define the category in which a certain song belongs. However, my goal was not to find a concrete list per se. I just needed some broad ideas about each genre to actually search for fitting music in order to cover such a broad spectrum. So that said, the sources didn't need to be valid. Validity was not the intention. Besides finding information off the internet from different sources, I also have asked around the school wondering if anyone had any opinions about the different subgenres of electronic music. However, no one was willing to say anything because they simply couldn't. they have never really heard anything about the genre. In fact, I can only think of 4 people from the school that exhibit any interest in electronic music whatsoever, and those 4 people didn't express an interest in either naming the subgenres of different tracks, nor did they know all the major subgenres themselves. So in regards to a human resource, I only received help from my older cousin, and he has written a couple different songs in Pro Tools before, but he is very, very familiar with the system. However, he didn't know about the subgenres of EDM at the time either. He writes mainly country music. He just knew how to use Pro Tools. In terms of a print source, the Media Center didn't have any books remotely close to my topic of interest because it is so unpopular. It is also difficult to find books about electronic music online. And so that said, I don't have any printed resources in my research at this time. So from my research, I was able to gather songs that were deemed fit into a specific genre. And from there, I had to figure out exactly how I would manage to import them into Pro Tools and edit them into my mix. This was the hard part of the project's creation. Looking at Pro Tools for the first time is much like trying to read Greek. Nothing makes sense. Therefore, I had to start from scratch and watch a multitude of videos from different people in order to find one that I could actually wrap my head around. So once I was accustomed to using the system, or at least the basics anyway, I had to apply all of my information from the sources into what I wanted to accomplish in Pro Tools. And mixing is not all that hard. However, it requires the knowledge of basic track effects, fading in, fading out, and beat matching. However, in my case, nothing lines up because each genre has a specific BPM range. My most adverse challenge was actually creating my own track that fell into the parameters of the progressive house genre, which was the genre I have chosen my track to replace in my actual mix. And so I had to remember that I had to keep building up to a section of high tension, release this tension, and start over. However, that's only the beginning. I also had to apply my learned knowledge about creating my own track as well, which was much more difficult than the actual mixtape. It is easier to put a bunch of songs together than it is to write a song for yourself. And there were plenty of difficulties and challenges that I faced in my project as well. However, I didn't necessarily make any changes when it came to the project itself and to the project's goal. I knew what I wanted to do, and I stuck with it throughout the process. Most of my difficulties rose from uncontrollable factors such as technical difficulties, weather, etc. I tried my best to keep on track with my project. However, I have had so many tasks to accomplish this year that it was quite frustrating even to find time to work on this assignment. Plus, my meetings with Mr. Bankhead had to be pushed back 2 weeks because of snow. The expansion pack my father ordered for me was not compatible with my version of Pro Tools, so we had to send it back, and there were various other factors that I could not control. However, if you're hearing this, you know that I've successfully completed the project despite all of these uncontrollable factors that have slowed me down. However, it just goes to show that perseverance pays off, and making do with what I had, I feel like I've done a pretty good job, especially in terms of creating my own track. This is where most of my time invested in my project was spent. Overall, I feel like my product meets my goal. My mix thoroughly embodies all of the major subgenres of electronic music. I created an original track that can be incorporated into my mix, and that's all I needed to do. Of course, it was easier said than done, but either way, I still feel like I executed at a high level. My only weak point in my project was planning. I feel like I could have been clearer about what I had to get done exactly in each section. I didn't really go into it having a plan. However, overall, if people do not show at least a greater appreciation for the genre after listening to this mix, I honestly don't know what else I could have done to change their mind, or at least expand it. Now, I could talk to you for days about what I learned in creating this project, but unfortunately, I have a limited amount of time. Despite having prior knowledge about the different subgenres, I still have never dove this far in depth into investigating it. I've never really debated over the genre of a song. However, in my investigation, I did find out that there was no official definition of each subgenre. That was definitely new information for me, and contrary to popular belief, it's a whole lot of work. To start out, it took me a few days to actually route a MIDI, or a musical instrument digital interface cable, into my computer and figure out how to set it up in my digital audio workstation. From there, I taught myself how to use the MIDI edit window and how to cut tracks, how to quantize a recording, and just how to record something from MIDI in general for that matter. From there, I conducted research on actually editing the tracks I created, so that includes usage of all the virtual instruments within Pro Tools 11. I worked with oscillators, or the actual sound generators, equalizers, which also means applying different types of filters such as high pass filters, low pass filters, shelf filters, the gain, etc. And the list goes on and on. However, one of the most challenging yet exciting parts of the project was figuring out how to export tracks and edit them in different digital audio workstations, because Pro Tools 11 does not come with a lot of effects needed to edit a track. Take a cymbal sound, for example. A characteristic sound of a progressive house music cymbal is usually reversed, and so to reverse it takes a lot of work. However, the effects tool, and it was a lot more difficult to create this in Pro Tools because the Pro Tools toolbar didn't have what I needed to reverse the track. That said, the sound was created by MIDI, so I had to take that sound, re-record it onto an audio track that can be made into a new session, make that session with the audio track, bounce it, which basically means mixing it down into a proper format, import my new MP3 file into another free digital audio workstation called Audacity, apply the desired effect, which was reversing in my case, saving that into my music library, importing the track back into Pro Tools, and then applying an equalizer because the track will not sound as full once it is bounced. That said, some of the methods I use to create the sounds I want are very, very complex, and I can safely conclude from this that it takes a determined and willing mind to become great at making electronic music, just like becoming great at any acoustic instrument. However, despite it being a very tedious task to create certain features of a track, my father once told me that if you work on something you enjoy doing, you never really work. And I've never really worked on this project. I just had fun and created something I love. So thank you for listening, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks. Bye.